Let's talk about Khabib
Jon
Gaethje.
Jones.
Let's talk about
Oh,
Khabib
you want to talk Khabib
Gaethje.
Gaethje?
So the pay per view, before the pay per view happened, Dana White. Listen, every time Dana White is talking about like numbers and analytics, he always throws out these analytics that are just they sound so strange, and it's like I'm not sure how to fact check him. Right, a lot of times he says, "Oh, the live press conference did bigger numbers than Conor's and Khabib's." Oh. The website's traffic is higher. Like it's difficult for me to fact check him, right? But it came back that he was saying that it was trending to sell about 2 million pay-per-views. News came out that it was actually not that high, but it was around 500k, 500,000 pay-per-views sold, which is kind of surprising. Compared to what the projections were. I'm not sure if those are official results because UFC doesn't release official results.
Conor and Khabib, when they fought, I think that was like 1.4 or something?
No, that was
or
like
how much was that?
2.6 or something.
Oh, it was 2.6.
Yeah, something really
Oh, I
high.
didn't know that.
It was
Very
the highest grossing pay per view for UFC
For
ever.
UFC, eh?
Yeah. So I don't know if those are official. Those a lot of times UFC is a private company, so they don't necessarily release their numbers like that. But there's people that are on the inside that and like network like cable companies, I guess, I don't know, that get this information, and they're saying that it was closer to 500,000 pay-per-views, which is very strange for Khabib, who is worldwide star now. You saw of all that traffic online about his reaction, the fight prior to it. There was a lot of hype to it. Some of it might be attributed to the 2 p.m. start time, so people weren't aware that the fight started at 2 p.m. Eastern instead of the regular like 10 p.m. Eastern.
So when they hand back these stats, though, is it only based off USA and Canada, or is it worldwide?
I don't know. I assume it's worldwide, but a lot of countries worldwide don't do pay-per-views like the traditional way. So like in the UK, they do like BT Sports, where you pay a subscription fee to BT Sports, and then they, on behalf of you, they purchase those pay-per-views for you, so that you can watch them. But you basically pay like a fee, like a cable service, to watch it.
And you also can't forget that with COVID, these numbers are going to be down because like when you're watching a fight, you usually watch it with others, right? So
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, but
I feel like
other pay-per-views this year have produced a lot, right? The Izzy one produced a lot too. It's just
how much was Izzy's?
I wish I did the research, but you could probably search it right now. But it's very strange that it's very low. Am I really concerned for anybody in this equation, for Gaethje or for Khabib? Not really. Khabib is said to retire. Gaethje will be fine. He brings eyes to the sport for what he does, or the human highlight and whatnot. The UFC, I feel like this number is not necessarily the most accurate. It must be a little bit higher.
I think it is. I don't think it's only 500K.
Yeah, or the UFC was already aware that this number is going to be much lower and anticipated some other measures to make sure, hey, we know that since we're starting at 2 p.m., we will lose this many pay-per-views, and as a result, it's fine, and we'll get something on the back end or whatnot. Yeah. Next one is segue into what we were just talking about, Khabib. Dana White tells a reporter that he's been talking to Khabib, and he thinks that he'll end up coming back for one more. So
Dana White, this guy.
Dana White is a bad man. Okay, so this man will not let this guy retire in peace. So he talked about it in the press conference as well. He said that he talked to Khabib, and it just didn't sound like he wanted to retire. Or he didn't sound like he wanted to stop his record at 29-0. He wanted to go for 30-0. He referenced his father wanting the 30-0 as well. And Dana also said that, Khabib is going to go talk to his mother, right? So
let's say he's not going to fight GSP. Because personally, I don't see it happening. The only fight that could probably happen after that is Conor and Khabib, right? But I was listening to a podcast earlier this week. TriStar head coach Firas Zahabi, right? He broke down basically that there's no point of Khabib coming back for the Conor fight because he's already killed him once, and there's not much else to gain from that fight. So if he's not going to fight Conor, he probably won't fight Ferguson, and he probably won't fight GSP because he's not going to come back, right? So I don't really see why he would come back and then who he would fight. That's just
the
me.
obvious choice are those two guys, right? There's also Tony, which is what he also referenced to, like one of the best people in the best fighters in the world, and is also a different challenge that GSP
his father did, yeah.
Conor doesn't, his father as well. What Conor and GSP don't face, but if he comes back, it's GSP. GSP has always remained in shape. He's teased this fight many times before. Even in his retirement, he left the door open and was like, "Yeah, I'm retiring, but you never know what could happen." A lot of that came from the fact that Khabib and GSP talks were going on back then, where they were saying, "Oh, these guys could potentially fight each other," and the one issue was money, of course, but also what do you do after, say, GSP wins? Do you vacate the title again, right? So like, what do you do? It's a whole mess, similar to what happened at 185 when GSP came and he fought Michael Bisping and then he just dipped. He said, "I don't care what my contract says, where I have to defend the belt. I'm just dipping. I can't do this anymore. I can't eating this.
But
I
we
can't
know
keep
for the
eating
sport
these steaks
that
and tiramisu." Yeah.
Well, we know for the sport that the better fight would be Khabib and GSP, right? But if we're talking pay-per-view buys, it's obviously going to be Khabib and Conor. Yeah. But even then, I don't see it topping in the first fight. There was too much.
You never know. You never know, because you're speaking as the current state. What if Conor goes and the fight with Dustin, which is confirmed? I'm not sure what date it's confirmed for, but it's already signed.
It's in late January.
So say that fight is turned into the lightweight title fight, right? Yeah. Conor wins that fight, wins another fight, right, and now is on top of the world again. If Khabib comes back out of retirement and faces Conor at that time, it's going to be crazy numbers, probably even bigger, because now Conor is back to his stardom, right? And he's actually has a belt this time, as opposed to the other way around where Khabib had the belt. The question is right now though is that Dana hasn't taken the belt off of Khabib yet. So he said that we're not vacating the title right now. We're just letting things sit and see where it goes. But time is running out. Conor's going to say, "Hey, I need that title. I need my chance." And what is Dana going to do, right? He can't
that fight's happening early next year, so there's still time.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be vacated for sure.
Yeah.
And Khabib, if he does come back, it'll be sometime in late next year or the summer of next year. But even then, I just don't see it happening. And there's no point of him coming back for Conor, But
you say that now. It's not that Conor also gave him his toughest test too, right? Of all the fights that he's had, Conor was the most difficult. And Conor's the one where he did lose a round. Now, does that mean that much? Well, not necessarily, but in the context of who's your toughest challenge, right? And who you're going to fight other than GSP? Well, Conor's the biggest fight that you've had in terms of pay-per-views, but also technically your toughest challenge that you've had, looking at it hindsight, so like after the fight.
Maybe and UFC wants that Conor redemption, so
because UFC just wants numbers. They just want your money, redemption or not. If they can squeeze out another $2.5 million pay-per-view buy rate, well, let's go, let's do it, right?
Hopefully COVID's gone by then, but I don't know. I don't see it happening, to be honest.
See. Jon Jones, speaking of Jon Jones, he came out and was talking about almost immediately after Khabib beat Gaethje, news came.
He's too insecure about it.
The community came out and said, "Hey, Khabib is the best to ever do it. He should be the GOAT, number one pound for pound. Initially, from the tweets that I saw, Jon Jones was kind of giving passive aggressive compliments to Khabib, if you want to say that. He's like, something about taking off the crown from his head and putting onto Khabib's, whatever it may be. But then soon, it didn't take too long for him to start on a rampage of trying to convince the community that he's done more and is a better MMA has a better MMA resume than anybody ever, including Khabib.
I posted a video of that actually.
Yeah.
So his whole thing was that he has 5. I think 5.
How many dislikes you get?
Like 2.
Yeah.
Anyways, though, he's basically saying that you can't compare it because he has 14, whereas Khabib has only 5, right?
Yeah.
Titles.
He's right. He's
like,
right.
As in,
he's right.
He is right.
Yeah.
But if we're talking about pure dominance, you can't compare the two. You know, even in his last 2 fights, very, very close fights.
No, I know.
With with Jon Jones, right?
Your last 2 fights don't dictate your entire fight history.
Sure,
right?
Sure. But you know what the thing with the fight with Reyes, I'm giving that to Reyes. The fight before that, who did he fight again? Was it Werdum?
Thiago Alves or Silva, whatever his name is. Thiago Santos.
Santos. Yeah, even then, honestly, I had Santos winning that fight until he tore his ACL, his MCL, LCL.
Every L.
You know?
Every L, yeah.
he tore everything. But I don't know, man. I don't see him like.
Yeah.
You can't be called a GOAT when you take steroids, you know?
Yeah.
That's my whole thing.
That's the biggest thing, right? So a lot of people have got have a bad taste in their mouths when it comes to Jon Jones because of all the controversy revolving his outside conflicts where he has criminal records, he has hit and runs, he has DUIs, he has tons of stuff. Too many things. He has so many things. So add to the fact that he also got popped for enhancing performance enhancing drugs. There's a lot of politics that went into that, whether or not he actually
caught hiding like underneath the ring. You know,
if he actually did it, yes, hiding under the ring because he said that I smoked marijuana, even though it was said that they don't necessarily test for marijuana. So there's a lot to hate about Jon Jones, right? He provides a lot for you to dislike about him. So I get what he's trying to say, right? Where he's saying that he has the most title defenses, or he has a lot of title defenses. He's technically undefeated. He's been doing it for much longer. His competition level is probably a little bit higher overall, right? Khabib has really only fought the top 10 maybe in the last 5 or 6 fights. Other than that,
he's ran through them, you know.
Yeah, sure, he's ran through them, but so did Jon Jones, right? So the discussion is comes down to first acknowledging. I will acknowledge Khabib is the greatest lightweight in UFC history, right? So that includes guys like BJ Penn and Conor and so on and so forth. So that's a different discussion, but he does have a resume. Jon Jones has a resume that probably is a little bit better than Khabib's, but in the moment, you gotta let him shine, right? You gotta let it go because
I get that, but you always come back to the steroids, you know.
Yeah.
If you're caught with steroids, how can you be considered the GOAT?
But the thing is that
to me, that doesn't make sense.
To be fair to him, though, he wasn't necessarily penalized for the steroids. He was penalized for taking supplements that were tainted. Right. He wasn't necessarily.
Like
yeah. The beef in Mexico, yeah. But he wasn't necessarily proven or convicted of actually taking steroids, right, or any anabolic steroids. He was suspended because he took these supplements, and we found that these supplements have traces of that steroid. And then later on, when he got popped again, it was at such small amounts. It was deemed that it wasn't as likely. It was very unlikely that he was using such small amounts, and it was most likely pulsating feedback that they were getting from the previous tainted supplements that he took. So there's a lot of controversy. There was one thing interesting that they were talking about back in that time was holding all these samples for the future as well. So assuming that just like it's happening now, testing always gets better and better as time goes on. If we keep these samples for longer and longer, we'll be able to better understand what happened. It does get kind of messy because now you're trying to rewrite history, but in Jon Jones' case, I wouldn't mind them going back and trying to be like, okay, he actually didn't take it, or if he did take those tainted supplements, it was the reason why he was pulsating, or why he had small amounts later on in his career.
Yeah. Well, how it works though, because what I was reading, it's all on cycles, right? So you go on a cycle and then you come off it.
Yeah.
So of course, if you're off a cycle for a long time, I guess there's only traces, right? But I don't know.
But they get tested.
Let's leave it to the experts.
Like consistently, they don't get tested outside of those cycles that you were talking about, right? So I don't know. I am in the camp of giving him the benefit of the doubt, even though he doesn't necessarily deserve it. Right. I would say that he actually did take tainted supplements, and maybe it was in the coke that he consumed. But
sniff that.
for now, we just have to wait and see.
Yeah.
Anderson Silva retirement. So I've been watching MMA for like almost 10 years now. Maybe 10 years, yeah. Around 10 years now.
Long time.
Yeah, so I caught Anderson right before the first Chael fight. That's when I started watching. His legend was on the level of Jon Jones. Let me give a better comparison. Level of, I don't want to say Khabib, but he was on this level where he could not be touched, right? Every fight that he went into, unstoppable, would eat shots, walk through people, dodge. It was the human matrix, right? This guy had...
So like Adesanya.
Yeah. Maybe an Adesanya. Like a 1.0 of Adesanya, right? The reason why I say 1.0 is because Anderson was not necessarily the same skill set, right? He was a counter striker, finesse. He kicked a lot, but he didn't necessarily have the same movement and didn't have the same wrestling defense. Was BJJ black belt, but a little bit different than Adesanya. So yesterday he fought Uriah Hall, who was supposed to be what Adesanya was later touted as the next Anderson Silva, right? So he faces Uriah Hall and gets knocked out by a punch that probably in the last 10 years, maybe back where I started watching, he would have walked through it, right? He's very good at rolling with the punches, so he doesn't completely absorb it. But as well, this guy would put his hands on his hips and be like, "Yo, hit me," and people would hit him as hard as they can, and he still wouldn't even shake him. It's kind of sad to see. He lost 3 or 4 fights in a row now. One of them also was a no contest with Nick Diaz because he got popped for steroids as well. The man has a terrible body. Like, it's just, he's never had a 6-pack body. He's never had like the Paulo Costa. He's never even come close to that, right? He's always been this skinny fat 185 legend. So it was kind of surprising.
So you were
about
saying
steroids.
Yeah. So you were saying that you watched him. You're saying almost 10 years ago now, right?
Yeah. In like 2009-ish.
So I only started watching UFC seriously for the past 5 years.
Yeah.
So
it's a completely different person. Yeah. I'm sorry you had to watch that. Man,
so
his leg kicks, he got stopped because of leg kicks. He got knocked out recently. He got stopped.
So the only fight of him that I actually properly watched, don't call me a casual, but it was him versus Adesanya. And when I was watching that fight, I guess he showed flashes of his pass off, right, with his dodging and everything.
Yeah.
But even then, you're right. His style is very weird.
Yeah.
It's like, as you were saying, like he wants to get hit.
Yeah.
But even then, you watch these punches and you almost cringe because you're like, put your hands up.
Yeah.
Put your hands
but
up.
That's him. That's
but
him.
I guess
that's
him.
If you go back and watch him versus Forrest Griffin, right? You'll say the same thing to yourself, but then you'll be like, wait a second, who is this guy? Right?
Yeah.
Are these the same two people? Right? If you watch him versus Damian Maia. Oh, not Damian Maia. Vitor Belfort. Don't watch Damian Maia, by the way. They literally just walk in a circle and just waste time. It was a huge political move. Silva against Dana White. But watch against Vitor Belfort, where he literally front kicks him to the face and knocks him out with one kick and it walks away. No, did he walk away? No, he didn't walk away. He stood there and then he came up and he finished him with punches. Anderson Silva, absolute legend. I remember it was a while back. I think it's like 2012. He signed a 10-fight deal, and back then he was probably like 38 or something like that. And I was thinking, I was like, 10
right
fights?
Right now he's 45, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, 10 fights? Are you kidding me? Like, you just lost the title. Like, you're probably going to decline from here. What are you doing 10 fights? So, I guess...
And how much are these paydays for these guys? Because, I'll tell you, when I saw the Khabib payday, he made $10 million, right? And then I saw that Gaethje made $440K.
Yeah.
So how much is he making off these fights?
So, just to put in a note into that one, what you just said... They also get champions get pay-per-view cuts, so that's also not disclosed. The one number that you're seeing is just the one that they disclose to the commissions. Anderson Silva probably makes close to $1 million, maybe a little bit more per fight.
Per fight.
Yeah, it's probably because he also has been with the UFC a long time, and as you fight for them for a longer amount of time, you sign for bigger and bigger deals. But he had a 10-fight deal back in 2012. This last fight that he had was his 9th, so he actually has one left on his contract.
He has one more, but he's called it a day, huh?
He didn't call it a day. Dana White said, "Hey, I'm never letting Anderson Silva fight again in the UFC." So what does that mean? Anderson Silva will have a tough time trying to go to any other organization for MMA because he has that one fight deal. As well, if he tries to have a fight in the UFC, they probably will try to stop him. Dana White's pretty good.
Yeah, I can see why,
Yeah, Dana White's pretty good. When he says, I'm not going to let this person fight anymore in the UFC, he usually does that. He's been wishy-washy on some guys, like BJ Penn, but typically when
Sanchez, huh?
Yeah. When he says, I won't let these guys fight again, then they usually don't show up.
But how does that work then? He just pays off their last fight?
No, what's funny is that these contracts these guys are contractors, right? So he has one fight left on his contract, and for as long as he's an active fighter, he's not able to work anywhere else. It doesn't just expire, that contract. So if he says, "Oh, I'm retired," and then a year later tries to unretire and fight for Bellator, UFC will come and say, "Hey, you can't fight for Bellator. You have one fight left on your contract." And he'll be like, "Hey, what do you mean one fight on your contract? You told me you won't let me fight there." So that's where the issues might arise. But I don't know if he even wants to fight anymore. He's 45, turning 46.
Yeah, he shouldn't. He's after that last fight, it's not very good,
But legend. Put some respect on his name, for sure.
Yeah, of course.
For sure. All right, so first news is Stipe versus Francis 2, targeted for March 2021 Fight Island. So Stipe just came off a win against DC, becoming a multiple-time champion. I don't even know how many times he's won it. I think he's lost it once, right, to DC, right?
DC, yeah. The first time with a knockout, right?
Yeah, he got knocked out. So funny enough, a lot of speculation and talk was coming in about his chin, right? So the reason why DC was able to knock him out with that strike from the clinch was because Stipe came off a fight with Francis, right? Because during that fight, he got just hit so many times over and over and over again.
That's the last guy you want to get hit by,
The last guy. So unfortunately for Stipe, that guy, it has been on
fight again.
He has been on a very long win streak. He made a very good case for himself too. He was like, how long are we gonna let DC and Stipe hold up the division? Right, there hasn't been a championship fight for so long, and not a new
Francis, his last fight was against Rosenstrike, right?
I think so. Yeah, where he knocked him out pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But so now it's speculated or rumored for Stipe Francis 2 in March. That gives Stipe some significant time to recover from DC fight. So you could probably assume that his chin is okay. So what we can look at now is like, what do you think is different from this fight and compared to the first fight that they had?
So of course with Francis, he's fought. I want to say at least 2 times since the Stipe fight, right?
Probably, at least 2 times. Yeah. It would have been good if we did our research, but yeah.
We're kind of behind. But let's just shoot. Okay, so I think Francis is his chance to beat Stipe. I don't see Stipe winning. This guy has gone through too many wars, especially after that last fight with DC. Like he was hitting him a lot, but even then, like, he never really dropped DC. And DC, he lasted all the 5 rounds, right? Stipe, I think he's gone through too many wars. He fights Francis for the second time. This guy might actually kill him, okay? So I think, honestly, I'm going with Francis. I don't see Stipe having a chance for this fight. But that's just my opinion.
Okay, what round?
I think maybe the first or second round ends.
First or second?
I think so.
Because
I don't see Francis going all the way to 5 rounds. And Stipe, we saw in his last fight with DC, his cardio was good, but by the time the 5th round came, he was gassed out.
So I pulled up Francis's last 4 fights, which are all wins. Curtis Blaze, Kane, Junior Dos Santos, and Rosenstrike. All of them in the first round. Knockouts, okay. 45 seconds, 26 seconds, 1 minute 11 seconds, 20 seconds.
Let's not count the Cain Velasquez one, because that was kind of because I remember when he was fighting him, I think he broke his knee or something, and then he just fell to the ground, and then
No. That was the speculation at first, because it looked like, he hurt his knee. I think he did hurt his knee, but he got dropped by a punch. When he came in, he got uppercutted by all of the power of goddamn Africa, man.
That was early 2019, huh?
That was February 2019, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think the biggest difference is Francis is older now, but he's more wiser. So he's come off that fight that he had with Stipe. He went on to fight Derek Lewis, which was like a terrible fight where he was just gun shy, where he did not want to punch. So he went on to finishing his next 4 opponents, who are Hall of Famers, at least 2 of them.
Yeah.
Kane, Junior Dos Santos, he beat them within the first round, right? So I think it's going to be very interesting, because I don't know how much Francis has improved his wrestling, because we never see it, right? Like, when do you see it? In the 10th second or the 22nd of the fight, right? There's not much to go off of. So it's interesting. I would try to pick Francis as well. Stipe is getting long in the tooth, and he barely.
I think Stipe has to call it a day soon, man. This guy, he's not sounding well when he talks too. This guy is.
Don't be disrespectful. Don't be disrespectful.
I don't want to be. No, listen.
Give him
honestly,
respect.
I'm gonna give respect, but I just think that too many wars, and I'll keep saying it. Too many wars. Yeah, he fights Francis for the second time. It's not gonna be
he might do the same exact plan, right? Where he just uses head movement and tries to take him down and hold him there and finish him. Not finish him, maybe go for decision, tire him out. But what was interesting was in the first fight, I don't think Francis ever threw a feint at all. Every single punch he threw was he was throwing it completely, trying to headhunt. So I would like to see him use feints because it'll make him less tired for sure, instead of him just swinging for the fences. But then again, who am I to give a man advice when he's finished his last 4 fights within the first round? Within the first 2 minutes, right?
It's been a hell of a streak.
Yeah, we'll see how long. It's unusual to have that long of a streak in the heavyweight division. So if he becomes champion, it's gonna be very, very interesting. On other news, is we actually touched on this last time, was Izzy versus Whitaker. It came out that Dana White at a press conference was like, Whitaker doesn't want to fight Izzy. Because of that, I want Izzy to fight Jan Blachowicz, which is the light heavyweight champion, which is very, very strange. So if Dana White is just going off of what Robert Whitaker was saying in his previous interviews about fighting Izzy, I think there might be some sort of confusion. The thing is with Whitaker is that he's too open. He's too candid about his feelings, right? He lets out yeah, sure, it's a fight that I want, but it's a tough fight. Like I really don't want to fight him because not necessarily he's scared of him. He's just trying to communicate, or my interpretation is he's trying to communicate like Izzy is not a fun person to fight. Like if I have to do it, I'm going to do it, but he's not a fun person to fight. If that's what Dana's going off of, he's kind of written Whitaker off and put in Jan, which is kind of goes into what Izzy projected or wanted to do. So Izzy's plan, he was saying that I want to fight in the light heavyweight division, and more specifically Jon Jones for the title in 2021. Well, 2021 is coming up very, 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 very soon, but Jon Jones is not the champion. Jan Blachowicz is.
But this is a weird situation for Izzy because even when he fights at middleweight, he's a little bit lighter, right? So he goes to light heavyweight, he's going to be very light because for light heavyweight it's 205, right?
It's 205, yeah. He probably walks around at like 220 and cuts down.
I don't know about that because when he fights at middleweight, he's very light. Like he's not like at the limit.
Yeah.
He's at like.
He still has a cut down to 185. The question is that is he able to move up in weight and also keep his power and keep his agility and also able to put on muscle so that he's able to fight and withstand or absorb punches that he may take from guys like Jan Blachowicz. Because Jan is not a weak guy. That guy, when he hits you, right? It puts out
some shady cardio though. He has some shady cardio.
Shady cardio? What do you mean?
His cardio isn't that good, I actually went through a few of his fights recently, and
Yeah, but cardio doesn't matter when you beat the guy within 2 minutes because you punched him really hard in the face. So the prediction between their fight is a different story. We can talk about that if it does get booked, because right now it's still up in the air. But it's interesting to see that he wanted to go to Izzy wanted to go to light heavyweight in 2021, but it was against Jon Jones. So Jon Jones already vacated the title, went wild on Khabib and being the GOAT and so on and so forth. I saw recently he somebody broke into his house or something. He chased the person out with a shotgun in his hand. I don't know if you saw that.
I didn't see that. I didn't see that.
It's kind of strange. But it's funny enough that Izzy would go up, but it wouldn't be Jon Jones. So what does Jon Jones do? Does he say, okay, forget the heavyweight, I'm going to come down, and assuming Izzy wins the championship at 205, does he face him and have this big fight? Or does he go, I'm over that, hey, heavyweight championship, this is my next challenge?
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, he's still pretty young too, right? So
he's 30.
There's time for both of them. He's 33.
33, yeah. he's getting up there, right? He's has a lot of wear and tear on his body, not just from the fights itself, but also training and all the partying and all the bad things, you know.
The bad things.
Bad things. He's a bad guy, right? So